Morning, everyone. Josh here, Solopreneur Grind, and it is Friday, October the 25th, for another daily this week. Hope your week is going well. Going to switch up the structure a little bit of the daily, although I am happy to report that I've figured out the lighting. So if you've been watching these on YouTube, some of them have been not so pretty from a visual standpoint, but we're making big strides in the production quality of Solopreneur Grind. Anyways, hope your week's going well. I wanted to switch up the structure a little bit here and basically cover two main things. Number one, personal/business update. So more of like, let's call it a journal style, kind of what went on in the last week for me. And then number two is the key takeaways, right? Because reporting on what happened is only so valuable if I can tell you kind of what I took out of it, how I'm trying to approach it, big problems, stuff like that. So week went relatively well. If you have been following along Solopreneur Grind, you'll know I am an immigration lawyer by practice, and about a month and a half ago launched a related tech startup. So it's an immigration tech startup up here in Canada. There aren't many out there really at all in Canada. There's a little bit of immigration innovation going on in the US, not much in Canada. So getting that started has been really cool. It's been a cool adjustment because startup businesses, I guess, and let's just call it the whole startup environment, is very different from just being your kind of everyday solopreneur, right? So through my practice, which I've been doing for more than 2 years now, mostly just working alone from home, from co-working spaces, stuff like that. You go out, you get clients, you service the clients, eventually got a VA and stuff like that. Pretty straightforward. With the startup comes a whole other slew of, I don't want to say issues, but like new problems to tackle, new areas of business to learn, right? Especially if you're working with people, that's a big one. Working on technology is something I've never done. So even starting to understand that lingo, how it works, how it's built, just totally new can of worms, which is, really exciting, a little bit daunting. But that is okay because it's a new challenge, and the others, like the legal stuff, was getting repetitive anyways. So can't complain about new challenges and stuff like that. And what's kind of top of mind for that business right now is just the part on acquiring engaged users. And what I mean by that is what the new startup does, and I'll put a link in the description below so that you can check out the website, see a little bit more about what we do. I don't want to bore you in terms of this video explaining the whole thing, but we help tech workers relocate to Canada. So our platform helps them navigate the immigration process. And what that means is you're almost like partnering with someone to help them along their whole immigration journey, which can be long, it can be complicated, it's highly personal, right? You're moving, you're picking up from where you live, and you're starting in a new country, right? A new home. So there's a lot of interest for what we're doing, but the trick is, how do you convert that interest into engaged, trusting users? And so that's really the issue. The big problem that I'm trying to solve, that and probably will be for the next 2-3 months. So if you have any suggestions on that, feel free to leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, you can shoot me a message at Solopreneur Grind on Instagram, or join the email list. There'll be a link to that in this description, however you're watching or listening to this on, and I check every email. And I appreciate every email. So with that being said, let's transition this over to like the key takeaways and the lessons for the week. So with that in mind, number one, kind of like figuring out this new environment, and number two, trying to get more engaged users. For the first part, really just trying to stay organized and trying to keep learning, right? So through things like books, I read The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz, was a really good book. Reading about a bunch of tech founders' biography. Now, this is not for such like strategic and tactical stuff, but just reading Steve Jobs' bio, Elon Musk's bio, even Phil Knight's bio, who is, he's the co-founder of Nike. And he didn't start a tech company, but just starting and building a company that's going to go beyond let's just call it like a traditional solopreneur business was really eye-opening. And reading blog posts, just any type of content that you can. This I kind of do at the end of the day. So like the 9 to 5, 9 to 6 is spent on working, preparing, et cetera, et cetera. And then after dinner, before bed, that's where I, instead of, consuming TV and stuff like that, and when I'm cooking, whether it's lunch or dinner, listening to podcasts about startup stuff, business stuff. So, and then flipping it over to getting users, one blog post that really helped, and I'll link to this in the description below, is Do Things That Don't Scale by Paul Graham. From Y Combinator. And I mean, he's done a lot of other things before Y Combinator, but he had a really good blog post on that. So I'll send a link to that. Basically saying, before you should build all this massive technology and help thousands of people do something, find and help a very small number of them. And what that allows you to do is you can really learn a lot about them and kind of iterate and flesh out exactly what may or may not work. And once you figure that process out to the detail, manually, it's much easier to build technology around it. So highly recommend that. Just staying organized, to be honest, especially when you have more than one project going on. I mean, I have my to-do list. I think I actually did a whole vlog, and I can link to this in the description as well. I think I did a whole vlog once on my my to-do list or my journal or something like that. I forget what it is. I'll have to go back into the archives. But especially when you have multiple projects going on, when you're flip-flopping between tasks, like without my to-do list, I'd be totally lost. So I have everything that needs to be done, like within the next week or two, and then you can prioritize them, you can order them, you can decide which needs to be done today, which doesn't. And not only do I think it makes you work more efficiently, but even just knowing that I have the plan in place makes, kind of de-stresses everything, keeps you calm, cool, and collected. And I have a blog post on that as well. So you know what? I'm probably going to throw a few links to resources in the description, whether you are listening on the podcast or on YouTube. I'll throw those down in the description. Hope they help you out. That's kind of the update for the week. Would also love to hear what you think of this new structure, which is basically personal/business update, then key takeaways. I just find it gives me a little more structure, whereas I used to kind of just hit play and talk about what happened last week, which I think was okay. I mean, hopefully you guys got value from it, but having more of a structure is usually a better thing for this content and business and life and all that good stuff. Anyways, hope your week's going well, and hope you find some value from this, and I'll talk to you next week.